welcome back. Happy New Year. This is Unit 5, Lesson 1. We're just going to dive right in. So we're going to start off with this first graph, and we're going to do a little bit of minds on. Today's lesson is going to be Lesson 1, Equation of the Line Point Slope form. So the form that we've been using so far has been y equals mx plus b, and we like to call this just y-intercept form. This is going to be the form that's kind of the standard. This is what we always use. It's the one that most of your lessons will be done in, and it's kind of the one that I want you to always put your answer in. But there's different types of forms. So today what we're going to be talking about is going to be something called point slope form. So just a little bit of minds on, I want you to think about what you notice about these graphs. So we'll obviously take this up together in class. So I will just go in and fill this box in for you. So here it says that you have these lines put up together. What do you notice about them? We kind of notice that they're all going in the same direction, kind of increasing by the same one. We also notice that they're all linear graphs, right? Because they're all going up in a line. They're all linear graphs. They have the same slope. I'm just going to write these in. They are on different parts of the graph, right? So you have one that's over here. You have one that's over here, right? You have one that's over here, some over here. They're on different parts of the graph. And then last but not least, they have different y-intercepts, right? They intercept at the y-axis at different points. Alrighty, and how about here? What do you notice here? Some are increasing, some are decreasing, so it's safe to say that while they are all linear, right, so that's something they have in common, another thing they have in common is they kind of just intersect at this point, so we can just go up and be like, okay, this is 6 and 5, right, so they all intercept at point 6 and 5. Right? But they do have different slopes because some are going up, some are going down, some are steeper. And it's safe to say they have different y-intercepts, right? Cool. And that's that. So if we wanted to determine the equation of a line, which is just as a review, y equals mx plus b, where y and x represent the points on the graph, m represents the slope, and b represents the y-intercept, you need a bit of information. You can either have either the slope, which is m, plus the y-intercept, and that would be ideal. So if you knew what the slope was and you knew what the y-intercept was, you could just plug that stuff in, right? You either need to know the slope and some point on the graph. And we're going to talk about how to find the y-intercept if you have a point on the graph. Or you need the slope, 2 points on the graph, 2 separate points. And again, we'll talk about how to do that in this lesson today. Just going to write this in for you. Okay. So we're just going to move on. So it says to determine the equation of the line given information about the line. So what we're going to try to learn by the end of today is to determine how can we find the equation of the line if we're given either the slope and the y-intercept, if we're given the slope and a point, and if we're given the slope and 2 points. So if you're given the slope and the y-intercept, you already know you can just go and plug in y equals mx plus b. So you can go plug in the m, you can go plug in the b, and then you have the equation of that line. How can you do it if you have a slope and a point is what we're going to be doing right now. So task 1, to determine the equation of the line passing through point 3 and y with the slope of 4. Let's just start off with what the slope formula is. So the slope formula is going to be very simply m, and this is review from before the break, y2 minus y1, because it's rise, x2 minus x1, right? And now it says step 2 says to rearrange the slope formula by multiplying both sides of the equations by the denominator. So what's the denominator here? We want to get rid of that. We want to get rid of the x2 minus x1. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply both sides by that. So I'm going to say m times x2 minus x1 equals y2 over y1 divided by x2 minus x1 multiplied by x2, and I'm just going to put it in brackets again, minus x1, because we always put it in brackets. These two can cancel each other out, so it'll give us 1. We just leave it as it is. So we're just going to simplify. So we're left with m x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1. Because we're looking to get something that's similar to y equals mx plus b, I'm actually going to move the y's onto the other side. So I'm just going to rewrite the equation in a little bit of a different way. Equals m x2 minus x1, right? Just so that the y's stay on that side. And it says the information we are given in this task only has 1 point. The formula above needs 2 points. So I would need either an x1 and x2. I need a y1 and I need a y2. What we do when we write this equation again is we say that the second point is just x and y. So we just replace this x2 and this y2 with x and y. So you'll notice here the y2 becomes y, the x2 becomes x, and then our new formula here now is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, right? And x1 and y1 will just be the different points that we have. So this is called the slope point formula, right? Just like we have y-intercept formula, this is called the slope point formula. And it tells us, it says this is the equation of the line passing through a given point x1 and y1 and the slope of m. So that sounds a little bit complicated. So obviously what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to see how does this work. So if I have an m of 4 and a slope, an m of 4, which is my slope, and then I have the point of y 3 and 5, I'm just going to go in and say, okay, this is my x1, this is my y1, right? And I'm going to go in and I'm going to rewrite my formula from up here. I'm just going to take my slope point formula, which was y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. I'm going to leave the x and y alone, but I do have an x1 and a y1 and I have an m. So I'm just going to go plug everything that I know in. I don't know what y is, so I'm going to leave that alone. y1 is going to be 5. M in this situation is going to be 4. X, I don't know what that is, but I do know what x1 is, and that's 3. Right? And now I'm just going to simplify by expanding the bracket first. So I'm going to say y minus 5 is equal to, and I'm going to put the 4x together. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Right? And I'm going to isolate for y now. So I want to get rid of this 5 over here. So I'm going to do negative 5 plus 5 is equal to 4x minus 12 plus 5, right? Y is equal to, because these cancel each other out, is equal to 4x minus 7. Cool? Therefore, this is in y, right? Y equals m x plus b, right? Plus b is just negative 7, so the y-intercept is negative 7. Cool? Alrighty. So therefore, the equation of this line is going to be y equals 4x minus 7. We leave our final answer in slope y-intercept form where, so I'm just going to rewrite that out. And I'm just drawing this out because I don't know if we went over this. We kind of talked about it, but I'm giving you a more formal understanding of what this means. Y represents any y coordinate on the line. Right? I'm just going to change the color here. X represents any x coordinate on the line. And then M represents the slope. B represents y-intercept, and we'll talk more about what it means to be a y-intercept in our next lesson. But that is definitely really important to remember that B represents the y-intercept. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm say M represents the slope, just so you have a better understanding of what each variable represents. I recommend drawing this out. It's a really good way to remember. It's kind of in my memory forever now, but for you, when you're first learning it, it's probably a good thing to remember. All right, so we're going to talk about determining the equation of the line when you're given a slope and a point, right? So how you're going to do this is very simple. You're going to use the slope point method, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go, all right, so my point here is 8 and -3. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be x1, this is going to be y1. My slope is m equals 4, right? So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to write my equation in. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Y, I'm going to start plugging stuff in. Y minus -3, and make sure you always put -3 in brackets. 4 is the m, x minus 8, right? And then I'm just going to start simplifying stuff. The negative and the negative become a positive, so this becomes y plus 3 equals 4x, right? Because I'm going to go and multiply. Then I'm going to do 4 times -8, which is going to be -32, right? And then I'm just going to start isolating for y. I want to get rid of that 3, so I'm going to do -3. Right, -32, -33. 4x, just going to collect that like term, -35, y. And that is my equation of that line. So I want you to try doing B, C, and D by yourself. I'm going to continue to do them in this video. Please just come back, pause, whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do before you start watching the next ones, or if you want to watch one other example and then try to do C and D by yourself. They're a little bit more complicated. Whatever works for you. I suggest trying to do at least one of these by yourself so that you have a little bit of an understanding of where you go right and where you go wrong. So, letting you pause. Okay, welcome back. Y. And again, we're starting this off with, this is my x1, this is my y1, right? Y minus y1 equals m, x minus x1, and I'm just going to start subbing stuff in. So I'm going to do y minus -2. Always make sure it's in brackets when you sub it in because that changes the equation. -3 x minus -7, right? Let's simplify. The 2 and the negative and the negative becomes a positive, equals -3. Let's simplify in here. Negative and negative becomes a positive, right? Y plus 2 Now I'm going to expand that bracket. So I'm going to do negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 7 is going to give me negative 21. Want to get the y by itself, so I'm going to do y plus 2 minus 2. Whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other. So I'm left with y negative 3x minus 23. And that is my answer. Okay, gonna move on. Again, this is gonna be my x1, y2, y1. This is my m. Just gonna plug it into that equation. Right, so I'm gonna do y minus 1 equals negative 1 over 2 x minus 1, x minus 6. Right, so then I'm going to have to distribute that negative 1 to the x, and then negative 1 times negative 6, negative 1 over 2 times negative 6 is going to be positive. 0.5 times 6 is just 3, positive 3. Right, and I'm going to move the 1 over. And that's my answer. You could also write this as y equals negative x over 2 plus 4. Either way is right. Okay. Moving on. This is going to be my x1, y1. I'm going to do the same thing. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Right, so I'm going to do y minus 4 equals 2 over 3 x minus negative 9. Right, simplify first. Y minus 4 over 2 over 3 x plus 9. Right, y minus 4, distribute this in. So it's going to be 2 over 3, distribute it to the 9 as well, plus 2 over 3, and I'm just doing this for our purposes, 9 over 1, cancel that out, 3, 1, y minus 4 equals 2 over 3 plus 6 over 1, so I'm just going to leave it as 6. And then I want to get rid of the minus 4 on that side, so it becomes positive 4 equals 2 over 3 plus 6 plus 4, and that becomes y equals 2 over 3x plus 10. And that's my answer. Cool. Moving forward, last one. This one I want you to pay special attention to because it actually comes up again in our second lesson. Okay, so I'm going to do it in green. But this is going to be my x1. This is going to be my y1. Right? This, because it's 0 and y, is actually the y-intercept. And that's just something important to remember. So again, we're going to do y1 equals m x minus x1. Right? So y minus 7 equals 5 over 4 x minus 0. Right? So x minus 0 is just x. So we're just going to leave that as 5 over 4 x. Right? And we want to get rid of the 7, so I'm going to do y minus 7 plus 7 equals 5 over 4x plus 7. Y equals 5 over 4x plus 7. I would leave it as a whole number because you can't collect like terms here anyway. You have an x and then you have an x with a coefficient and then just a plain coefficient, so you can't collect these like terms. So you just leave it as is, and this is your answer. You notice here that your 7 is the y-intercept, which you already knew. You knew was the y-intercept. So theoretically, you could have just gone in and said y equals mx plus b. And since you knew, right, you didn't have to go that way. Or, I'm just going to put this in or. You knew that b was equal to 7. You knew that m was equal to 5 over 4. You knew that y was equal to mx plus b. So you could have said y equals 5 over 4x plus 7, and that would have been a completely acceptable answer as well, instead of having to do everything else. Okay? All right. So it says to determine the equation of the line passing through the given points. This is a little bit more complicated, but it is essentially the same thing that we've already been doing. And the only reason that it's essentially the same is that you still got to go in and you got to find y1, x1, and then put it back into point form. But now what you don't have is you don't have that original m to start off with. So first you got to find the m, right? And how you find the m is you have to find the slope. So let's put in back the equation for slope. So I'm actually going to put over here on this side, in orange, I'm just going to find the slope. Slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? So let's just go in. I'm going to say this is my x1, y1. This is my x2, y2, right? That's the way that makes the most sense for me. So 7 minus negative 2 divided by 3 minus 5. Oops, sorry. My apologies. So you do 7 minus 5, right? Your y's. And then you do 3 minus negative 2, right? So then you have 7 minus 5 just gives us 2. I'm going to simplify the bottom. The two negatives become a positive. So I'm going to say 3 plus 2 is 5. So my slope is 2 over 5. Now that I have my slope and a point, I can just go in and find it. So I can pick any point. I always like to pick the one with the easiest numbers. So I think for this one, I ended up actually picking 2 and 5 because those were the numbers I liked. So it doesn't matter which numbers you picked. You could have picked 3 and 7. Absolutely doesn't make a difference. So I'm just going to say point is negative 2 and 5. And then slope is 2 over 5. So I'm just going to go back in. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Right? Don't know what y is, but I do know what y minus 1 is, right? So I can say y minus 1 is, sorry, I know what y1 is, which is 5, right, is equal to, I know what slope is, which is 2 over 5, and then I know what x is, and I make sure I put the negative there, right? First things first, I'm just going to simplify the bracket. X plus 2, y minus 5. I'm going to multiply in. 2 times 2 is 4 over 5. And I just want to get y by itself. So minus 5 plus 5 equals 2 over 5. X plus 4 over 5 plus 5. And here you do need to change that 5 into a fraction. So it becomes y equals 2 over 5. X plus 4 over 5 plus, I'm just going to make that into 25 over 5 so I can add. Y equals to 2 over 5 x plus 29 over 5. Okay, and that is my answer. So I want you to give 3B and C a shot. I'm going to show you a little bit of a different way to do B, because there's two ways you can do this. So the first way you can do this is obviously the way that we had gone over, which was you can find the slope first and then you can do it the other way. But another way you can look at this is you have y2 minus y1 equals m x2 minus x1. You have a y2 and an x2, so why not just use those points? So I can go back here and I can say, okay, what's my y2? 7. So I said y2, x2. I'm just going to go put this in y1. So y2 is 7 minus negative 3 equals, I don't know what my m is. That's what I'm looking for. My x2 is 4 minus negative 6. Now all I need to do is isolate for m, right? So I can do 7 plus 3 equals m, 4 plus 6. 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 equals m. 4 plus 6 is also 10. Divide both sides by 10. M is equal to 1. And now I can go back and try to find my y-intercept by saying, okay, y minus y1 equals xm, which is just 1 in this case, right? But I'm still going to write the m in. And pick one of those points. So I went with the 4 and 7 because I don't like working with negative numbers, but you could have gone with anything you wanted. So I did y minus 7 equals 1, x minus 4, right? So y minus 7 equals x minus 4, y equals, oops, and then I'm just going to do plus 7 on both sides. This cancels out, so y equals negative 4 plus 7 gave me positive 3, so x plus 3. And that was my equation. So finding slope, there's two ways you can do it. Either you can do it using our traditional rise over run formula, or you can use it the other way. They are the exact same thing, just rearranged. Whatever works for you, use it that way. Okay? Probably should have put that in orange, but you know, you get what I'm saying. All right, and now last but not least in this lesson, we're just going to go over number C, right? Again, I always recommend, please try doing these by yourself. Don't just watch me go through them, because on a test or a quiz, you don't have me going through them, right? So just go through them yourself, figure out how to do them, and then if you still don't understand how to do it, come back and watch this video, okay? So we're just going to find, I'm going to do it, I personally like doing it rise over run way, so I like to do it y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's just my preference, but however you choose to do it, it's up to you. So I said, in this case, because these numbers were bigger and I knew I'd have an easier time working with them, I actually made this x2, y2, and I made this x1, y1. It doesn't matter which way you do it, you'll get the same numbers, but yeah. So I did 8 minus negative 4 over 0 minus 5. Oh, sorry. I did the other way. 5 minus 0 equals, make sure you go the right way. So 8, negative and negative cancel out, so that becomes 8 plus 4 over 5 minus 0 equals 12 over 5. That's my slope, right? Simply going to go back to my original y minus y1 equals m. x minus x1. Plug stuff in. So I'm going to use the 5 and the 8. Actually, I'm going to use the -4 and the 0 because 0 is a nice number to work with. But you can use the 5 and the 8. You'll get the same number. X minus 0. And this is why I use a 0 because I am frankly just lazy. And I didn't want to do any more math than I needed to. Right? So y plus 4 equals 12 over 5. X minus 0 is just going to be x. Y plus 4 minus 4, because I want to get rid of that 4, equals 12 over 5 x minus 4. Another thing is that I knew that this was the x-intercept, or the y-intercept. So I could have just said y equals mx plus b. I had found m already, which was 12 over 5. I knew b was -4, and I could have just plugged that in, and I could have said 12 over 5 minus 4. Do I prefer you do it this way? Yeah, it's easier this way, so do it that way. But if you don't understand it visually, that's why I showed it to you the other way as well. All right, and that is the end of our lesson. See you tomorrow.